Okay, since it seems that I have a particularly good flow today, I'm actually gonna record just another review after my Note 9 review, and it would be about the Beyerdynamic Beat Byrd. Now, what is the Beat Byrd? I would say the $25 attempt from Beyerdynamic to tackle a more modern, younger generation of people and getting them into good sound. If all of that worked out, we will see, and matching to the cable, I have the shirt. Okay, I can't really tell you what's in the box because my review unit just came with this and 3 different sizes of tips, but I actually want to start already with the tips because they have a unique shape, and at first I thought that won't be all that great because, as you can see here, what we usually get is more like this dome shape, and this is pretty much the exact opposite. But I'll get into later why that, at least in my case, works out actually better. Also about the housing, so the build quality is fine, as you can see, big lettering so you know which one is left and right. And one thing that I also completely underestimated was the kind of small shape, because they had 2 big things that they talked about in their marketing or their press event where I thought it's just marketing BS. The first one was their higher quality, better cable and the kind of smaller chassis. About the cable, they said it's thicker, it's supposed to be a little bit quieter and just better quality. When I just got them here without any comparisons, other in-ears, I thought that's not actually thicker than other ones. At least I thought so. But once I've actually used them at work for a day or so, on the first day I already noticed that it is actually a difference. But just to show you this is a normal, cheap, also like $20 headphone. And it might not look like a lot here, for example, but the Beyerdynamic is thicker. And the part where it gets, for example, to one cable here and where it gets to one cable here is, after all, thicker. Now, why I'm actually calling this out? Now, for this one reason. If I usually have not the most expensive headphones where I don't take too much care of that, I just round them up and then just put them in my pocket. Like, for example, here. And let me do the same thing with the Beyer. Okay. My point is, if I put these in my pocket, I definitely will not pull them out like this, because I'm pretty sure you all know that they all get tangled up super quickly. But these ones I take out just like this, because the great thing about this a little bit stiffer, maybe not quite as flexible cable, is that it doesn't really wrinkle up, it doesn't really get tangled up. So the one thing that what it does, if I, for example, have this small curve here, like you can see, sometimes there is like one loop that kind of stays like that for a while if it doesn't maybe straighten out. And if you use then that one, due to the cable not being the super longest one, I would have sure like maybe 10-20 centimeters longer in some cases, especially if you're a tall guy, could drag a little bit, because after all the cable is a little bit thicker and therefore it's a little bit heavier and there is a little bit of drag. I've noticed that, but this comes with the benefit of it just not tangling up, and I think it just will be a little bit more robust, especially for the younger generation that they are kind of want to attract with these. I think this could actually work out. Now, since we are talking about working out, as you can see here, they talked about this being smaller, and I thought, yeah, okay, might be fine. But if I actually put these in, as you can see how subtle they are, you pretty much don't see them at all. So here you can see them, they are super subtle, they are super small, they are super flat. Now what they were also talking about is that you can sleep in with them because you don't notice them. I tried that, but if my ear sits on something, the sound is just not the same. So therefore I couldn't sleep on it, otherwise I could. But I have to say, this is one of like maybe 2 or 3 in-ears, normal ones that you just put in and you don't have to fiddle around with it, that I actually could have in my ears for hours and hours and hours, and they never actually fall out, because pretty much every earphone falls out for some reason out of my right ear. Just with ear canal. So the 2 or 3 that I had ages ago, small ones, bad sound, they managed to stay in my ears and were comfortable. These achieve the same. That is for me very important, because especially for this price, and I don't have to do much, because okay, something like, for example, the brainwaves that I tested a while ago with the most horrible cable at all, and these pretty much tangle up in a second. This is not convenient. At work, if someone wants to talk to me, I need to get the earphone out very quickly, and I need to get them in very quickly, and it has to be something where I don't have to adjust it much. This was a little bit of pain in the ass, but these I have in. Someone wants to talk to me, I put them out and I just put them in like that, and I don't have to readjust. And that's actually a very important thing for me, because I'm very nervous if I had earphones, and I usually always, with the older ones, I always kind of twisted them around, always thinking the sound would change and so on. But these, you just have them in, you don't have to adjust them, and it works out. That is so important. And when it comes to being subtle, well, the cable is not. but I kind of think I know why they did this. Because they're approaching a $25 market for younger people. And it's not just the youth, but especially Samsung and Apple kind of made the white one very popular. And you see a white cable, it's either a Samsung or it's an Apple device or a cable or a headphone, earphone. If you see orange now, they want you to think of Beyerdynamic, especially along with the new logo here, which they have, which is supposed to be a wide eye, which is kind of a retro style, because if you actually look at their very old microphones, they actually have a very similar, this is a slightly modernized logo. And in terms of build quality, I have nothing to complain. This is actually the smallest ear tip, which usually is still too big for me, but in this case it works out. So when it comes to the comfort, subtle for hours and hours. Yes, a little bit drag due to the cable, so maybe if you have one of these clips that should work out, but that's the super important part. Now the next important part is how easy are they to drive? Well, not easy enough in my case, because my OnePlus 5T with the, I know, higher than usual volume did not quite achieve that. Because, for example, if I use the brainwaves, which are way more efficient, I get like 6-7 steps that I have as room left with, for example, the ultrasound now that I had to use here with the Beyerdynamic to get the volume that I needed. With the Beyer, I had maybe like 2 steps left. So you need like 5 steps more to get the same volume compared to the brainwaves, which cost $200. So they aren't all that easy to drive. You need like 5 steps more. So if you use normal headphones and you are already pretty much on the end, you have 1 or 2 steps left, this one will be a little bit tight. Unless you have a very good headphone jack, like for example, I think a Xiaomi should be fine and most Samsung should be fine. Also, obviously every LG should be fine. But especially for the $25 price point where you want to attract as many people as possible, this should have been maybe a little bit easier to drive. Now, when it comes to the sound, I'm actually going to tell you this right up front. You won't pay $25 for these just for the sound, for the best thing, because that's not where they super shine. They don't kind of fall down, but it's something else. Why in combination I can absolutely recommend them. But let's get to the sound. Soundstage isn't super wide. It's a closed one after all. It's not the most highest end. And I'm pretty actually sure that you can get KZ in-ears or some other, let's say, like secret tips that are cheaper and offer better sound. But overall, the soundstage was fine. The imaging was totally fine. And the sound signature I would explain like this. Bass and kind of mid bass, but still noticeably before the proper mids is a little bit elevated. Then the mids are a little bit recessed and the highs could have been pushed a little more, especially the highest end of that. Kind of there is a little bit of a bump at kind of the vocal range and a little bit up to the highs, but not enough. So it's still kind of an overall dip. So that makes the sound overall very easy to listen to because they are not aggressive, they are not too demanding, they are pretty relaxing. Actually, they are not sibilant or anything like that. They are actually kind of unimpressive. They are a really nice all-rounder because I would say for this price point, they extend the bass, I would say, well enough. But for example, my brainwaves extend lower, but they don't emphasize the bass too much because these push the bass a little bit more, which is absolutely nice. And bass heavy music was fine to listen to. Obviously, you don't have the highest transparency, you don't have the punchiest bass, and you don't have the highest resolution bass. But for this price, I couldn't complain because the overall sound wasn't too heavy, too bloated or something like that. It was a little bit dominant, a little bit forward, but not in a way that I would have said it's too much. It was fine. The mids, like I said, a little bit recessed, especially with the vocal range being a little bit, how should I call it? A little bit on the laid back side. That's just something I have to say. And when I listened to them for like almost 2 weeks now, I always thought that they are really nice, especially if I listen very loud to them. They're overall kind of okay, but they felt a little bit, not really dull, but here's the one big thing that I did not expect to change so much. When I used them just by chance with Black Player, I just said, usually I don't like it all to try Equalizer, but I did. And it is just a 5-band Equalizer. I think the last 3 bands are like 4K, 8K, and 14K or so. And what I did, I just took these 3 last bands and just raised them by 1. And that pretty much completely fixed my issue. The sound got way more clearer, it got way more open, soundstage opened up, it felt a little bit more airy and just more pleasant. The kind of lack or kinda lack, just not quite as pronounced highs were now there, and it was just way more uplifting, it was just way more pleasurable to hear, and it kinda balanced out the slightly higher bass. So that's the thing. I think actually, since I prefer those higher highs, those a little bit more dominant mids, most people will actually be super happy with, and I think they tuned that, so most people will actually like it, because if I see all the kind of Bluetooth headphones out there on the market, they are kind of tuned like this, but then I would have to say these are actually a nicer balance, because those are usually very bloated, way more bass, and then odd highs and odd mids, and so I think most people will be happy with these right out of the box. And I have to say, I did not expect him to nearly be as easy to EQ like this, because I didn't really fine-tune him. I didn't play along a lot with the EQ. I just used it for like a minute, and I said, that's actually totally fine with me, and I'm super pleased with the sound now. But like I said, the sound is not the main reason to buy these or to recommend these. Why I'm going to recommend these is the following. $25 for a headphone that has noticeably above average build quality, because it seems very sturdy. The cable, like I said, doesn't tangle up. It seems a little bit more robust. They are very comfortable. They are very easy to put in. So it's the convenience factor. For $25, you get a headphone, and I see so many people always complaining that their headphones or in-ears break like after half a year, the cable or something gets kaput. I don't think this will happen anytime soon. So they kind of did this, I think, in mind for the younger generation that sometimes gets stuck somewhere, or just pull out the cable or the earpiece, the in-ears, and then they just get broken. So I think this should hold better. Now, for example, if you get something like those secret tips for $10-20 that you can get from eBay that might offer better sound, absolutely, I think that's absolutely possible. But those you will have to replace more often, I think so. So you should definitely try these. I'm pretty happy, because they might not be my very first choice just in terms of sound, but like I said, with the EQing, I'm actually perfectly happy with them. And then I have this huge convenience factor of the easy, great comfort, usability, nice cable, they never tangle up, and that is actually sometimes more worth than the sound. Not saying that the sound is bad. Yep. Bye.